All right, CNT125, we're looking at Chapter 12 on performance and recovery. We have a couple different objectives we're going to cover about different tools, methods, best practices for incident response and disaster recovery and so forth. So let's dig right in. Network management is part of what this whole chapter is about, referring to the assessment, monitoring, and maintenance of all network aspects. So it's one thing to get it set up, which we keep doing in our labs, but it's a whole nother, ball game, if you will, to be monitoring, maintaining that network over a lengthy period of time. Weeks, months, years, if you will. So network management can include any of the following. User access to resources, monitoring performance of baselines, what's normal, what's a peak, and what is too much data that the network can't deal with, checking for hardware faults, ensuring optimum network performance for applications, maintaining records of assets and software configurations, determining best time of day for upgrading systems, those sorts of things. That's all part of it. The network managed network is going to differ according to the size and importance of a network. I'll use the example of like a school. A school during school hours, critical network connectivity, application readiness and so forth of that sort of thing. After hours, 9 o'clock at night, midnight, that sort of thing, there is probably little to no traffic on the network. Meanwhile, if I compare that to a place like a hospital, 24/7, 365. That network needs to function all the time and have access to things. There might be lower periods of access. Midnight, there's lower periods of access, but there's still patients in the hospital. There's still records that need to be accessed. There's still imaging that needs to be taken and stored and so forth. So it's going to differ depending on the network that you're working on. All share the same goal no matter what. Efficiency and performance, trying to make it perform as best as possible, prevent any costly downtime. Years ago it was okay to have a little bit of downtime. Nowadays it's pretty much not acceptable to have any downtime on any network because so many things rely on the network for communication. And then also trying to predict problems before they occur and try to maybe cut them off or fix them before they become an issue. Bare minimum, identify them quickly and restore them quickly, but sometimes even predict before they actually occur. Well, one of the things that needs to be monitored is environment, if you will. Number of things need to get monitored that many people don't think about, and some has to do with the condition of your data closet, if you will. Devices, racks, room temperature, humidity, dew point, those sorts of things in equipment closet. If it's too hot, things usually power off. If it's too humid, things are going to start corroding and maybe even shorting out, those kind of things. Flooding, if there's any leak in the closet, we want to catch that before anything is damaged. Smoke or fire. Airflow, if we have fans on servers cutting off or ventilation fans cutting off, things could overheat. Vibration motion is sensed by security cameras. Again, vibration might cause things to shut down. If you think back to the spinning hard drive days on servers, that would cause errors and issues there. Lights on and off, room or rack doors open or close, power, are we losing power to certain elements, whether it be a rack or UPS or etc. All those would need to be monitored. And there's all kinds of different utilities to do so. Here they're showing the idea of things that would need to be monitored, and there is actually resources out there that I can be monitoring power and power consumption, power use, and there's all kinds of different sensors that can plug into that to be detecting water in a closet, smoke in a closet, or power outage in a closet, those sorts of things. All kinds of different sensors can be used, and this would be information that still needs to connect to the network and provide information to you to know whether there's issues that would affect a potential outage. If we sense water in the closet, I might be able to get there and fix the issue before it causes something on my, server rack or equipment rack to shut down and fail. Might contain all these kind of different things. Power connections for redundancy, USB console connector for configuration from a laptop, web interface, etc. All kinds of different things for connecting to, backing up, etc. And I think they even show you here all kinds of different ports that can be used for your sensors. There's even ones that can be used for connection to different types of sensors, and then access to either remotely or connecting in the closet to manage all of this, or gather all this and manage all this. They bring up the idea of an alert as well as a log. Alert is a message that's generated pretty much real time. And many devices, many things that we monitor managing a network can send you alert when some sort of condition applies. So let's start simple. Let's say I have a sensor in a closet laying on the floor sensing for water. When it senses water, it kicks out an alert, and that can be sent to various things. And one can be just as simple as a text message to you. Well, when I get that, I might get to that closet quickly and fix or have maintenance fix the problem before it becomes a bigger issue. That would be an alert. It's something coming real time. And it can be something as simple as that, power outage, etc. It could even be our UPSs every now and then will start beeping when the batteries are getting old and need to be replaced. Well, as that starts beeping, we try to replace it before it fails and the UPS shuts down and causes servers and things to shut down. It could be as simple as that. A log, on the other hand, is just that, a record of something that occurred. So an alert goes out, but it also gets added to the log. And if I don't catch the alert, at least the log has it. So it's one of those, I might look at the log in the morning and realize something occurred overnight. So the log is keeping that, but that's more a historical thing. Side story. Once upon a time, we had a network in our room that it kept showing outages periodically throughout the day. And this was just our lab network in the room. But I looked at the logs over time and noticed it was happening at pretty regular intervals. And what I found out was one of our cables was laying on the floor and there was a connection there. And whenever ventilation kicked on and vibrated the floor, it would loosen the connection. It would have an outage, it would shut off and come back on. So it was literally kind of going on and off based on vibrations, that sort of things. The log was able to give me evidence of that, just to give you an idea. So that's something historical that can be looked at. And there's all kinds of utilities to gather and keep that information. Sometimes it's just as simple as a text log, a list of events. Sometimes they'll even put it in graph and so forth to let you know percentage of time and so forth. Dealing with traffic monitoring, there are traffic monitoring tools. Again, I would want to know how much traffic's moving through, what is, kind of eventually we'll talk baseline, what is normal and what would be out of normal and maybe why. If it's out of normal, I might need to find out what traffic is causing that out of normal. And it might be just something as simple as there's a sale of a certain product going on, so all kinds of extra web traffic is coming in that is out of the ordinary. Oh, okay. But I need to monitor the traffic to know what is moving and what is normal, what is not. So there are things called network monitors and protocol analyzers. A network monitor is a tool that's going to continually monitor the network traffic. The protocol analyzer, like Wireshark, is really there to monitor between a specific interface, server and client, and I can look at the specific protocol traffic. We keep using Wireshark to learn about the protocols. It is still usable in a network, but for a certain aspect, if you will. So a network monitor can be monitoring traffic and giving you some trends. And that would be something that is connected up to maybe a network tap where all the traffic coming into a network, I can see a representation of that. How much percentage is this traffic? How much percentage is this traffic, etc. Meanwhile, something like a protocol analyzer like Wireshark is really coming in and out of an interface. And now I can see different protocol traffic on a specific interface. That would be something that is off of a port. Now I think I mentioned this down here later, I can do some port mirroring on here and gather traffic on a range of ports, and I could even filter that. So the monitor is going to give me kind of an overall view. The protocol analyzer, I can drill down a little bit further on specific protocols on maybe a port or a group of ports. So there's different types of monitoring that can be done. Inline, port, wireless, reporting, and so forth. So let's take a peek at those. Inline is just that. I have a network tap installed, and I have my monitor attached to it. So everything coming in and out, it's able to, keep a log of, so to speak, and let us know how much of this type of traffic, how much of this type of traffic, how much of this type of traffic. And maybe over time I learn what's normal, and over time I start learning what's abnormal. I have a lot of this other protocol traffic. What's going on? There's something different going on, and that would let me see that. Port mirroring is what we did back in our IP phone lab, where we took a handful of ports here that the phones were connected into, and we mirrored it onto our protocol analyzer is what we did. That would allow you to see specific traffic in a port range or a port. In this case, we're just copying from port 1 to 23. In the lab, we did, I think, ports 1 to 10, and we copied them over to like 23 or 24, something of that nature. But I do need to make sure things like my Wireshark is set for promiscuous mode, meaning everything. I need a copy of everything, whether it's to me or not. I want to see the other traffic coming through as well. The promiscuous mode setting on your Wireshark would allow that, and usually in where they have the interfaces, you would select that. If you look at the interfaces in Wireshark, you select that option to see, I want to see all the traffic. Wireless monitoring, I would have some sort of utility running on a wireless device that's connected to a network. And again, I would see the kind of traffic that's moving through the wireless part of the network. And in reporting, I might actually have a network monitor that's receiving reports from all these different devices that could collect them. Like, hey, when you get an alert, send it to this. When you get alerts, send it to this. When you get alerts, send it to this. Or a certain condition means send it to this. And that would be kind of like the console to connect it all, the dashboard, if you will, to connect or collect it all. So all network monitoring tools can perform the following. Set the NIC to promiscuous mode to pass all traffic. Capture network data transmitted on a segment, capture frames sent to or from a specific node, monitor network traffic on a segment, reproduce network conditions by transmitting a selected amount of type of data, generate statistics about network activity. We can even do that in Wireshark. After we capture a session, we can do a breakdown and see what percentage of traffic was this, what percentage of traffic was this, and so forth. So that can even be done as simple in Wireshark. Some network monitoring tools can perform some of these functions, if you will. Discover all network nodes on a segment, establish a baseline, track utilization, store traffic data, generate reports, trigger alarms, identify usage anomalies, and so forth. So some of our monitoring utilities can do these additional functions, if you will. A network monitor or protocol analyzer can use traffic analysis to identify the following. And these would typically indicate some type of problem or an indicator of some type of problem in the network. So as I look at these runts, they're packages, the packets that are smaller than the minimum, less than 64. These might be fragments of something. Giants, packaged larger than. Jabber, a device that handles electrical signals improperly. Bad NIC or electrical interference, it's kind of like always transmitting. It's just kind of blah, 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 always retransmitting, if you will. Ghosts are frames that are not actually frames, but caused by device misinterpreting stray voltage. So it thinks this voltage is actually a 1, if you will, when it's not actually. Packets lost due to unknown protocol, recognized port, network noise. They never actually arrive at the destination. If I get a lot of packet loss, I might have some indicator of noise or something else on my network causing that problem. Discarded packets that arrive at the destination but are discarded due to buffer overflow, latency, bottlenecks, congestion. Congestion might be I need to do some quality of service on the traffic moving through. And interface resets, repeated resets of the connection. The interface itself might not be configured correctly, so it continually resets that. So we're kind of back to logs, if you will. So remember, alerts were letting us know something in real time. Log is something that's going to maintain over history. And pretty much any system out there, Windows, Linux, Apple, etc., have logs in that can be used and looked at for history. So if I take a peek in Windows, usually Event Viewer is the kind of thing you would use to look at logs. Here's the Event Viewer from Windows 7. These are different logs that can be looked at. Here's from Windows 10. I opened that folder there so you can see there's different types of logs in there can be viewed for specific issues, problems, etc. This would be stuff that could be checked historically over time. On Linux, Apple, we end up running into syslog. Syslog actually has that kind of information logged this way. I can have some different categories here I can open as well. And in different versions of Linux, I might need to look in different directories to find them, but there is always logs there that can be used to reference or look at any kind of historical thing. Accidental, duplicate IP addresses, multiple logins or logins from a foreign source, that sort of thing. These are all things that can be looked at over time. All right, we'll continue in the next podcast.